Hey, what's up everybody? Cub here. Today I want to talk about mending. More specifically, I want to talk about the recent changes to rebalance villager trading, which were first seen in Snapshot 23W31A, and have subsequently remained in an experimental phase ever since. A lot of people thought that these changes made it more difficult to obtain mending, or did it? Here are the experimental changes that have been made if you are unaware, showing that villagers now offer book trades. Librarian villagers now offer book trades based on the biome that they were born in. Now, as you can see, mending now requires a master level swamp librarian to obtain it. However, that trade is also guaranteed, unlike the current version of the game, where trades with librarians are random. What I haven't seen anyone do yet is a full-on test, experimenting with how difficult it is to obtain mending with these changes versus what it's like in the current version of the game. Like, which one actually takes longer? Like, have they actually played both versions and seen which one takes the most time? So, today, we are doing precisely that, and along the way, we're going to attempt to answer 3 questions. Question 1, is getting mending harder or easier than before? Question 2, if it is harder or easier, how much harder or easier is it? And question 3, the most important question, is it a good change for Minecraft? We will revisit all these questions at the end of the video, but first, we have to run the experiment. So first, we're going to test out how long it takes to get mending from a villager in Minecraft 1.20.1, the current version of the game. We're going to load up single player, we're going to create a new world, and we're going to call it, let's say, Villager Mending 1. And we'll do survival, we're going to do hard difficulty, and we'll type in a random seed. Let's just call it villager testing. And we'll do the same seed in the snapshot to test how long it takes to get mending there. So let's go ahead and just fire up the world. And from the very start, we will just go continuously until we have one single mending book, because after that, it becomes trivially easy to get more. Alright, so you all know how Minecraft starts. It's the same start that it has been for years and years. You punch a tree to get logs, turn those logs into some wood planks, get some wood tools, then upgrade to stone tools pretty much instantly, and you're set to go. I first decided to get a bunch of wood via the axe so I could trade with the Fletcher later on for emeralds. I then crafted a boat because I saw an ocean nearby, and I thought, since boats move faster than the player can run, that would be a good option to help us find a village quickly. Now, I soon came across a savanna biome after boating for a minute or two, and decided to explore it on foot. I traveled over one hill and saw not one, but 2 separate villages, one savanna and one plains. At this point, I was roughly halfway to the mending book already, and decided to head toward the plains village rather than the savanna. There I found several villagers, there was plenty of food, and I made fun of a villager whose house was literally at the bottom of a giant hole. Then I got some flint to make a fletching table. After getting easy emeralds from the Fletcher, I went and gathered books and a lectern from the village librarian house. I trapped 2 unemployed villagers in a hole, and used 2 lecterns to turn them into librarians. Then I placed the lectern down 44 more times, getting all sorts of enchantments which I was not looking for, before I got the mending villager. Finally, I had enough emeralds to buy it, and bought it. And that means only after 16 trades, and 19.85 minutes after starting the world, I had my mending book. I didn't even need any iron or diamond tools, just stone tools and wood, and within 20 minutes, I got the most powerful enchantment in the entire game. I barely even needed food. So there you go, guys. 20 minutes, less than 20 minutes, to get a mending book and a mending villager acquired and established in the world in Minecraft 1.20.1. Super easy. Don't even need iron. Yeah, and you can do it within one full Minecraft day. So now we will switch versions to 23W31A, the experimental villager rebalance snapshots, and see how long it takes to get in that. Alright, so now for the snapshot where villager trading is restricted to be more balanced. It's biome dependent now, so we know where to find Mending now, we know we have to take villagers to the swamp and breed villagers in the swamp to get mending, but how long will it take? That is the question. We're going to play hard difficulty. Obviously, world seed is going to be the same, so villager testing. We did not see a swamp biome in the previous world, so we're going to have to find that, although we now kind of know vaguely where villages are. So we are going to see what we find here. So we are in the same world, as you can see. Yep, here's the desert / mesa, and there's the jungle, and let's see, where did I go? I actually did not pay much attention to which way I went. I just sort of went for it. Try and get some sticks from these things. I think we went that way. Yeah, we went that way. Okay, so we'll go the same way, so we know where a village is. We can sort of do that same process, right? But then hopefully we find a swamp along the way somewhere. Let's just swim over here. This seems like a good spot. And we'll see how long this version takes. I'm guessing this will be significantly longer, but how much longer? Hopefully not much more than an hour, but we'll see. Our journey starts out exactly the same as our previous run. We punched logs, turned those logs into wood, then make wooden tools. Then, I dug down and instantly upgraded to stone tools. However, I also made a hoe this time, so that when we made it to the village eventually, we could harvest wheat. I did this because I knew that we would need food for the anticipated longer journey, and would need more emeralds to eventually upgrade the swamp villager to master level, which of course can take generally a stack or more of emeralds. After trading some wheats and sticks at the plains village, I headed out towards the savannah village and repeated those trades. I gathered more wheat, emeralds, and resources along the way from this village. Now with a respectable amount of emeralds, I headed out to the ocean. The reason I went to the ocean is because we were in an area with warm biomes, near savanna biome, which a swamp is also a warm biome, and I felt that traveling by boat is much faster than walking on land, so we'd probably find the swamp biome faster. We traveled for some way on the ocean, raiding a few shipwrecks, picking up additional emeralds, iron, food, and resources along the way. Eventually, we came across a large desert. We found a few desert villages at that point, which I did even more trading with, farmers for wheat. We even found a golem, which we slayed for some iron. That gave me enough iron to upgrade all my tools. And we also traveled on foot in search of the swamp biome. Plus, we also found a desert temple, some treasure, even more villages, and a bunch of other things along the way. At one point, I was riding a camel because I found a saddle in a temple. That was cool. But eventually, we found ourselves around 5,000 blocks from spawn, where I spotted a small village in a plains biome. Now, I came across villages before, didn't think much of it at the time, but just in case, I marked down the approximate coordinates of the village, which I had done for all the previous villages as well. It's not necessary, you can just sort of feel your way back, but sometimes, I was thinking maybe I forget which direction I go, so it's good to have those coordinates. Regardless, luckily, nearby this village, I found a swamp, and it was only a few hundred blocks from that plains village I found earlier. So I dug a 2-deep pit to put villagers into. From there, I set up a bed and chest, dropped some things off, and headed back to the village to begin moving the villagers via boat. Now, the transport of the villagers from the village to the swamp was pretty easy. It was only a few hundred blocks, and 90% of the journey was via water. Upon getting the villagers to the pit, I simply pushed the villagers in, put down a few beds that I stole from the same village, and with the mood set, I threw some bread into the pit and hoped. Now, villagers have a 50% chance to have the biome of their parents. It's 25% chance from each parent with their different types. And a 50% chance to have the type of the biome they were born in. But I had plenty of wheat and bread left to spare from all the villages we visited earlier, so I wasn't concerned the villagers didn't make a swamp baby right away. However, these concerns were unfounded as a few moments later, a baby swamp villager was born. I knew I might still need more emeralds than I had at the time, and I didn't want the 2 plains villagers to claim the lectern I was going to inevitably need to place down for the mending. So, I decided to make each of the plains villager a farmer and a fletcher, and get a few extra emeralds before the swamp villager grew up in about 20 minutes. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, the swamp villager grew up, and I began the process of leveling that villager up to master. I had a decent sum of emeralds to spend, but as you can see, I had to spend a lot of it on other items to get the villager up to the master level, and I also finally needed to trade some books, but eventually we got the Mending book, as you can see right here. Now, I did also buy a bunch of other stuff, some pumpkin pies, I bought a bow, some arrows, but overall, through it all, it took 1.64 hours, which is about 98.5 minutes or so, just under 100 minutes. So just over an hour and a half to find the Mending book, and you can see we're actually like 5,000 blocks from spawn, which made me question, was this seed representative of sort of your average seed, like the average distance of your swamp biome to the spawn area? Basically, we needed some things to compare this to figure out, was this seed representative of your sort of average swamp and average distance from swamp to village in Minecraft? And so, we decided to test that as well. Here's what I'm doing. As you can see here, we've been basically creating some new worlds here, and we're going to make a new world right here. And what I'll do is I'll create 20 new worlds, all random seeds, and we're going to basically create the world. And once the world is created, we are going to determine how far the swamp is, and then how close the nearest village is. So, here we are in a random world, just so happen to be next to a Badlands biome on the edge of an ocean. So, we do slash locate biome swamp, and we are 2,805 blocks away from the nearest swamp. 2805. So I'll record this for 20 seeds. Then what I'll do is I will go to this location. Bada boom. There we go. All right. It is in fact a swamp, as you can see. In fact, it's on a mangrove swamp area. Kind of a small little swamp here, but still a swamp. But then we do this. We do slash locate structure, and we'll do all the villages. So there's a 2,000 block village. We'll do the plains, where there's a 786 block village. We'll do Savannah, 800. We'll do Snowy, which is probably going to be a little bit further away since we're in swamp. Yep, it is. And then we'll do the Taiga as the last one. Okay, so the nearest one is the Plains Village at 786 blocks. 786. I'll write that down, and we'll do the exact same thing for 20 separate seeds, and we'll just see what the average distance from the spawn to the nearest swamp typically is. So we are asking, are our results typical? We know that our swamp was found 5,437 blocks from spawn, and after generating 20 random seeds, I found the typical closest swamp was only 2,029 blocks from spawn. The closest swamp in those 20 random seeds was 289 blocks away. The furthest was 4,462 blocks. In other words, every one of the 20 random seeds had a swamp that was closer than the swamp we found in our experiment. In fact, the swamp we found was over twice as far as we would expect the closest swamp to be on an average seed. I realize this sample size is small, but I wouldn't expect these results to change dramatically. This shows our swamp was definitely representative of the average seed, and in fact, was kind of unlucky. In fact, if we take a look at the seed we just played through in our experiment, and we do slash locate biome swamp, we will see that in fact our swamp biome was about 4.5 or so times further away than the closest swamp biome, which is only 1,300 blocks away. So we actually did not find the closest swamp biome in the seed we just played, and here is that closest swamp biome. So the next question becomes, is this swamp biome and the village, which is somewhat close by at 703 blocks, if I just go into spectator mode and then quickly fly through the world like this, you can see the path we took across the water to the village, so not very far at all. But is this distance typical for your average distance of a village from a swamp biome? And to make a long story short, Yes, it is. Our village's distance was 700 blocks. The average is 652. And the minimum you can see, the maximum you can see. Basically, our village was an average distance away. So clearly, we had an experience that was average, or quite honestly, might have been slightly below average. So let's return now to the 3 questions we asked at the start of the video that we aim to answer. Number 1, is getting mending harder or easier than before? It is harder. Number 2, if it is harder, by how much? Well, it is harder, but not by very much. We spent 20 minutes the first time and 100 minutes the second time. 100 minutes is less than 2 hours still to get mending. Most players are still setting up farms by then, or will go to the nether first, or will go slay the dragon first. Anything like that, you're going to be spending more than 2 hours anyway, so somebody else will already have a mending villager, or can easily find a swamp biome within that amount of time. And if not, they will certainly have it by hour 3 or hour 4 or hour 5, all of which would by themselves be reasonable times. So it is harder, but not by much. By the way, all other enchantments that you find in plains and deserts and things like that are far, far easier. So overall, I think there's a slight increase in difficulty, but nothing that the average player can't overcome. The final question, is it a good change? I think it's an improvement on the current system, but it's still flawed in certain areas. For instance, what happens to those folks who are playing a super flat world? Are they just forgotten about? Can they just not buy books from villagers besides the one biome that is in their world? That, I think, should be addressed. And also, there's no in-game way to tell that swamp villagers and jungle villagers even exist in the first place. So before they even consider implementing these, I think they should address both of those issues, the super flat issue and the no way to tell if there's swamp or jungle villagers at all issue. There needs to be something in-game that basically hints at that or points the player toward that, because otherwise there's no way that a player who hasn't been told that or looks it up online would ever know that. Basically do what they did with ruined portals, right? Ruined portals imply the existence of the nether. They need to do something similar to imply the existence of jungle and swamp villagers if this system was added. Finally, I just want to say I salute Mojang for experimenting with things like this. I think they need to try more radical ideas like this and try more experimentation with core concepts and core mechanics in the game, because a lot of these mechanics have gone untouched for far too long, resulting in power creep for the player, where the game has gotten so easy that people forget that it's a survival game. You may disagree with that, you may agree with that. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you guys again for watching. Leave your opinion in the comments if you disagree or agree, and why. Thanks again for watching. This has been Cub. Goodbye.